what do you think about this? Do you think that this is a crazy idea? Do you think we're just going to, throw another $25,000 into like a midlife crisis decision? Or do you see this as maybe a viable business and the next step in Pickled.App, our journey? Hi, my name is Ben. I'm the founder and builder of Pickled.App, the best app for pickleball you've probably never heard of. But we're here today to try and change that. So as you may have noticed, today's episode is going to take an unexpected pivot, which in a bootstrap startup like ours is kind of par for the course. So first thing I wanted to do is introduce my wife and co-founder of Pickled.App, Tracy. Say hello, Tracy.
Hello, Tracy.
Super excited to have her on this episode. All right, a few days ago I saw an interview, I think it was the Selkirk channel, about a mobile pickleball service. And I got this epiphany. A subset of their business model actually aligns perfectly with our brand, which we try and focus more on the fun and casual side of the sport. And I thought to myself, hey, we should buy a pickleball court, or maybe two. So as with all my harebrained ideas, the first thing I do is run it by Tracy to make sure, sort of a sanity check. And if she doesn't think it has legs, then it's not going to go anywhere. But the basic idea is that we get a couple courts and run events within like 50 or 100 miles of where we live. And her reaction? You want to do what? But it'd probably be better if you heard from her directly.
At first, I thought it was crazy. But after a few hours of thinking about it, I thought, actually, it's a really, really good idea because it takes everything that we're already doing with the app and with this channel, and it kind of just brings it all together. Because our first ideas were, as you all know, to run tournaments anyway. And so we would actually be a tournament in a box, and we could bring it to you.
I like that, tournament in a box. So I was actually shocked when she wasn't just like ready to shoot it down, because usually she shoots them down and then I have to like justify it, and it's kind of like her test to see, how passionate I am about something as to whether I can justify it or not.
True story, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the idea is we buy 1 or 2 pickleball courts and basically start a mobile pickleball service. And we could run events for local companies, churches, neighborhoods, basically whoever wants in.
Yeah, so the events themselves would be a lot of fun, and bonus, would finally start producing some income.
Yeah, income. But from my perspective, the bigger play is, since we're going to be running our events through our own app, every event becomes kind of a funnel, potentially, into our app.
Right.
And the hope there is that after we leave the event, a subset of those people will continue to use the app in their own neighborhoods.
So yeah, we actually do need to do our diligence and our research, but if this checks out, I think we go for it. Wow,
that's a big thing. So yeah, I've done some preliminary research, and it seems like basically all the courts that are portable break down into 2 categories. One is a rollout court, so it's like this big roll of rubberized plastic, or the other one is kind of interlocking tiles that you can just assemble.
Like Legos?
Basically like Legos, yeah.
Interesting.
And each one of those has kind of its pros and its cons. Now, again, I'm no expert on any of this, but from what I've read, it sounds like rollout courts tend to be like the more preferred in terms of the bounce that they give, or how closely they can replicate like a poured concrete court, like a regular tennis court that you would see at your neighborhood venue or whatever, where they're smoother, maybe the bounce is a little bit better. However, and again, this is just based on what I read, you need a really flat, kind of almost perfect surface to put that on. Because any cracks or defects that are underneath are going to actually come through, because it's not a very thick material. Mm-hmm. And also for that reason, you may need underlayment. So it's basically you need kind of interlocking tiles, and then you put the roll on top of that. So you've got even that much more material, and none of it's light.
So the interlocking ones are kind of like Legos, where you just like pop them together, and are they lighter?
I mean, per square foot, they're probably not lighter.
So the whole thing's about the same as the roll-up, but
I think so.
Individually,
easier
to transport.
And that's, from my perspective, that's exactly where what I'm thinking in my mind is, okay, we get a call and we're going to go do this event. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 400-pound rolls of, actually it wouldn't be 2. It's I think they're 5 or 6 feet wide. So you're talking 5 rolls for one court. It'd be 5. 300 or 400 pound rolls that we're going to have to, probably we would have help. And I mean, I just really, over a 60-foot span, trying to get that lined up and taped together, that seems really, really difficult to me compared to like the Lego, the snap together. is basically 1 foot, or I think one of the other companies is a little bit smaller, but they're like 1 foot tiles that we could literally, set up ourselves. So from my perspective, I really think that the interlocking tiles or Legos are the better choice for us. But I have to say that from my experience, I don't know if you remember, but years ago, we have a good friend that lives in Denver, Colorado, who has this awesome downtown condo. Shout out to John. I don't know if you're watching. I don't think he's watching. But anyways, he's got this condo downtown, and on their rooftop, they've got a pickleball court. And it had one of those interlocking surfaces, and I hated it, to be honest. And now this is many years ago, but I actually am a drop server, and the ball, when it hit the surface, it would just die. No bounce whatsoever. And so I had literally, and we weren't even taking it serious, but I couldn't get a drop serve to work. So I had to switch to volley serve, and that messed me all up. But then also just, when I'd hit it to him, it just would hit real low. So it was like a noticeable thing. We weren't taking it seriously, so we still played. We still had a good time. But it was like, oh, this surface is...
But are they doing it? Do they make them better now? You said this was a long time ago.
That court was installed, I think, like 10 years ago or something like that. And from what I've read, I don't know this firsthand, but from what I've read, it sounds like they've changed the manufacturing process. They're using a different type of plastic that maybe has a little bit more balance and is supposed to address this. The other thing that I forgot to mention is they're much more flexible with the type of surfaces, because they're like 3/4 of an inch thick. So if there's a little bit of a crack, it's not going to, come right through. You may, but you don't need a subsurface. It just should be a lot easier to deal with. So yeah, from my perspective, I think it's a no-brainer for us to just use the interlocking if they've addressed the bounce issue. So there's 2 major manufacturers that I've learned about so far, and there may be others, but and we're not affiliated with any. I would love to be, but we're not. Yes. The 2 majors are VersaCourt and FlexCourt, and I actually reached out to both of their reps last week. And we should have some actual samples coming like Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Cool.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is the first thing I would do, put it in our garage where we practice up against the wall, and then just do like a drop test. So basically just drop it from like 5 feet on the bare cement, and maybe do a slow-mo cam and see how high it bounces, and then move it over to the tile and see how much that bounces. And then, if it's comparable... I mean, it's not going to be the same, right? It's not the same even... Like, if you bounce a ball even on a poured concrete tennis court that's got the epoxy on top, it bounces different than on just bare concrete. I don't expect that it's going to be the exact same, but, hopefully it'll be somewhere in the ballpark.
It'll be better than when you played with John on the rooftop.
If it's not, then, we just can't do it because, it just won't work for us. But if they've made improvements, substantial improvements, then... I think that's the way to go. And if they haven't, it's still a major issue. Then I think that we need to look at the rollout courts. And then, one of the costs that we're just going to have to account for is we're going to have a crew, definitely a crew of 4 people to.
And then we'll have to run the numbers again. Is this better a deal, or is it going to go back to chicken and pickle?
Exactly.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly. So when we get those tiles, I think that'll be Monday or Tuesday. I will make a quick video of the results and kind of an unbiased review. As I said, we're not affiliated with either of them, and just let you guys know, how it turned out. Yeah. And also another thing I would like to know is if you have or have used or played on any of these interlocking surfaces, and what was your experience like. I've heard some of the professionals recently. I think one of the big name brand pros, Anna Lee Waters, refused to play on a rollout surface.
But we're not going to be throwing tournaments for Anna Lee Waters or any
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, unless she wants to.
Yeah, we wouldn't turn her down for sure. We wouldn't turn her down. But yeah, I mean, we're not targeting like elite athletes. We want this to have a comparable feel. And so if you've played on interlocking surfaces before or the rollout surfaces, please comment below and just, if you can help us make this decision, this is a go or no go type decision. And then if we do, what should we use? And there's as with any decision, there's like pros and cons. And so you have to just kind of pick a lane and go with it.
Ooh, and I thought of something else.
What's that?
So like when winter rolls around here in Kansas City, we could just head south.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
maybe Airbnb it or something.
Yeah, I mean, we would need like a U-Haul or something to haul. But we definitely could. I mean, that's a one-time load if we went to like a place like Houston or
Phoenix.
So we could just head down there and like Airbnb it for several months and get plugged into the pickleball scenes there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely an option. I mean, if you're portable, then be portable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we could get an Airstream. So I guess our question to you guys would be, what do you think about this? Do you think that this is a crazy idea? Do you think we're just going to, throw another $25,000 into like a midlife crisis decision? Or do you see this as maybe a viable business and the next step in Pickled.App, our journey? So yeah, drop a comment below if you've ever thought about doing anything like this. If you care to weigh in, like your opinion about whether we should, whether we shouldn't. I think I'm going to go ahead and put a poll. Should we or shouldn't we? And if you're in the Kansas City area, definitely DM or leave a comment below. I would be very interested in that. We don't have a court yet, but we may here pretty soon. And, we'll have all the insurances and everything that we need to make sure that this is a proper event. And let us know.
And if you want to see how all this plays out, hit subscribe and you'll find out.
On YouTube, you don't even matter unless you have 1,000 subs. And we don't have 1,000 subs, but all the subs we do have, thank you so much. All right. Well, I don't know what you guys are still doing here. Go play pickleball.